Welcome back. Thank you for staying with the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. The voice of employees of the National Housing Corporation has not gone unnoticed by Minister for Housing and Urban Renewal Guy Joseph. The National Workers' Union, the bargaining agent for the employees, has sought to gain an audience with the minister to discuss a myriad of issues related to occupational health and safety and managerial matters. During the December 9th press briefing held at the Office of the Prime Minister, Joseph stated that no official letter or documentation from the union has reached his desk. Solange Alfred tells us more.
Minister for Housing and Urban Renewal Guy Joseph has broken his silence amidst the turbulent industrial climate between the National Workers' Union, the bargaining agent for employees of the National Housing Corporation, and the management of the NHC. Our camera crew was present on Monday, December 2nd, when senior-level industrial officers of the NWU, together with aggrieved employees of the NHC, made their way to the office of the minister in an effort to discuss matters affecting staff. When asked whether he had met with the union reps, Joseph says he has yet to receive correspondence from the representatives.
What would normally happen is that if there is a problem that needs addressing, that the matter would be, they would write to the relevant minister if they were not satisfied with the issues pertaining to how management or the board was dealing with the matter. As we speak today, the union has not written to me at any point in time to indicate any issues in relation to what has happened. The petition that I saw as any other parliamentarian. When I walked into Parliament, I got a letter on my desk, or at least in the area where I'm seated at the table in Parliament, and the letter was addressed to the Prime Minister outlining the concerns of the workers.
Meanwhile, he sheds light on one of the concerns highlighted by employees of the NHC regarding being sent on leave by management. Joseph says the decision taken by NHC management served to address the occupational health concerns highlighted by employees.
What management brought to my attention is, given the situation that existed, that the people would congregate in the corridor of the building. Now, if the building is problematic and causing people to be sick, I don't see the difference in being in the office and being in the corridor of the building. So, also, one of the situations that was brought to my attention is that there are people with extended periods of leave that have not been taken over a period of time. And so management decided that if they were going to address the concerns that were there, and people had accumulated leave, not the regular yearly leave, but accumulated leave, that these people would be asked to proceed on leave for a period of time while the matters were addressed. And I think it was those persons, or at least a number of the persons who were asked to go on leave, who would have raised their concerns with the union. But we have a very good working relationship with the union, and I know that steps are being taken to address that particular situation at the NHC.
Joseph sought to clarify his position in the situation, noting his lack of involvement in the day-to-day runnings of the statutory body. However, he says when matters like these arise, as a minister, he can step in to help pacify the situation. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Meanwhile, Guy Joseph says his hands are tied when it comes to providing low-cost housing to the public. Joseph shines a light on what he says is a dire situation affecting the National Housing Corporation, NHC.
Who's to blame for the now infamous financially deficient National Housing Corporation? According to Minister for Housing and Urban Renewal, Guy Joseph, the inheritance of the cash-strapped statutory body from the previous administration remains a splinter in his side, limiting his actions and the development of the housing sector in St. Lucia. The conversation arose while the minister detailed his part in the industrial row currently confronting employees of the NHC and management of the corporation. Joseph says a trip down memory lane shows all too well the inefficiencies of the previous administration.
I am on record as stating that if it was just my decision to make, that we would have restructured the NHC or closed the NHC a long time ago. The NHC is in excess of $50 million in debt. So as we speak here, this is what we inherited. That every time it is the government being called upon to bail out entities that have not been run efficiently and not meeting its obligations.
He goes on to detail situations entered into by the NHC that the current administration had to provide financial rescue for. He highlighted 3 failed situations involving lands in River Dore, Shock Estate Land Development, and Talvan Babono.
These are the arrangements that the previous government went into under NHC. And all of the people who were there said nothing. But here this government comes in and we have to fix all of this. So we've been able to secure the land at Shock, secure the land at River Dore. Between these 2 properties, it has cost the government in excess of $10 million that could have gone into housing development, but we've not been able to get the projects off the ground because of all of the legal implications with the previous entities.
The Minister for Housing says the National Housing Corporation is seemingly only being financed by revenue amassed from the CDCs, which he says serves to cover the salaries of the staff of the NHC. Joseph says upon inheriting the NHC in 2016, no completed financial audit had been done.
The auditor, as far as I know, is the auditor who had done the previous study or audit of the 2012 situation. So that is what we inherited. No reports when it is required that all entities table their reports on a yearly basis to Parliament, because the state has resources invested in these entities, but nobody wants to be held accountable for what they are doing. And now I have found myself in a situation where I have to preside over NHC, but for the last 3 years I've not been able to present audited financial statements for my tenure in office because I'm trying to catch up with what the backlog is from before I was there. So the Labour Party was in office from 2011 to 2016, and not one financial audit for the NHC was tabled during that period of time.
Joseph says preliminary reports indicate the NHC cannot be salvaged. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Christmas will not be authentic if people get caught up in a frenzy of shopping, presents, and meals while ignoring the poor and forgetting who the celebration is really all about. That is the message from Archdeacon Christian Glasgow, who attributed a recent viral video of a citizen's arrest of a would-be thief to the upsurge in the commercialization of Christmas.
If people are no longer satisfied with their own way of living and want things that they can no longer afford, this will lead to this type of breaking and entering that you're having. And breaking and entering, which eventually in some instances can lead to the taking of life again.
He urges members of the public to grab a hold of what is left of Christmas tradition in the hopes of rebuilding authenticity to the holiday. The president of the National Association of Driving Schools is sending out a warning message to motorists, asking them to practice safe driving during the festive season. His warnings are going out not only to motorists who drink and drive, but to safe drivers as well. He says one must always be wary because they can never know what the next drunk or careless driver could look like.
Driving instructor and president of the National Association of Driving Schools, Kingston Just, says in a world of road safety, repetition is the key to retention. And year after year, he will continue to caution motorists against the dangers of drinking and driving. Just says due to increased levels of alcohol consumption nationwide during the festive season, for even the most cautious drivers, one too many drinks at an annual staff party could spell disaster. He says when on the road, motorists should closely observe even the most dignified members of society as potential drunk drivers.
In the festive season, everybody wants to drink and drive. So I'm saying drivers, as you drive in mind, what if? What if that person is drunk? What if that person doesn't notice me? Many times we drive thinking that person's driving proper judgment in their head. But that driver might just not slow down at that junction. They might just enter into the intersection without slowing down, without watching to the right, without watching to the left before they move again. So you have to be aware of every single person on the road as you drive. You have to be aware of the pedestrians as they walk in. That person might just cross the road without looking right, without making eye contact with the driver. So you have to be aware of all those things, especially now.
Jha says local traffic laws as it relates to the wearing of seatbelts have fooled people into believing it is only necessary for drivers and front seat passengers to utilize this safety feature. He says in reality it is necessary for every passenger in a vehicle to wear a seatbelt.
Seatbelts really do save lives. During a collision, you're talking about somebody moving a vehicle. In 0.2 of a second, the person will be outside that vehicle within a crash. Even the crash has only 40 miles per hour, somebody impact force will be about 3,500 pounds of pressure. And that means that person behind you, sitting on that seat without a seatbelt, can kill you at the front with your seatbelt on. So we have to ensure not only the drivers have the seatbelt, but every single passenger have the seatbelt on.
Jha says simple actions such as proper roundabout utilization and sign adherence are key tools in ensuring motorists commute safely this Christmas season. For Hot 7 News, I am Jacques Wooding.
Thank you very much, Jacques. The St. Lucia Fire Service on Saturday, the 7th of December, received a helping hand from community members of Pavi, who formed a bucket brigade to control the spread of a structural fire in the community. Divisional Officer of the St. Lucia Fire Service, David Antoine, provides the details.
The structure consisted of a single-room apartment. That fire was effectively controlled by bucket brigade, thankfully, because of the assistance of neighbors. On arrival at the scene, fire officers were able to completely extinguish that fire that was confined to the room of origin. In most instances, a fire can be most effectively controlled at its very nascent stages, very initial stages, and persons can make that initial intervention, bucket brigade, whether it be fire extinguishers to put out the fire. I think most times, as I said, it is relatively safe at when it just begins, say a house fire or something like that. It's something that you could contain if you're there and you have the means to do so. But do not forget, in all of that effort, please do call the fire service, for if the fire gets out of control and it overwhelms you, that you would have had that option so that we could assist in putting out that fire.
Meanwhile, Antoine says over the weekend, the St. Lucia Fire Service responded to a total of 89 ambulance calls, 6 motor vehicular accidents, 6 physical assaults, and 1 shooting. He provides details on the most pressing matters.
On Sunday, November 8th, at approximately 2:57 p.m., fire officers from the Castries Fire Station responded to a head-on motor vehicular collision at Cicero. That incident was between a motorcycle and a coaster. On arrival at the scene, emergency personnel assessed and treated the rider for head injuries and other bodily pain. He was subsequently transported to the Victoria Hospital for further medical treatment. On Sunday, December 8th, at approximately 6:52 p.m., fire officers from the Babonneau Fire Station responded to a shooting incident at Ciceron. The victim of that incident was transported to a medical institution via private means before the arrival of emergency personnel to the scene.
Additionally, the St. Lucia Fire Service responded to 4 fires. 3 were structural and 1 electrical pole fire. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more news coming up after the break.